Coming up, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz visits Moorhead to promote his Walz Checks tax rebates for citizens. An arrest warrant is issued for the woman suspected of setting fire to this garage unit at an apartment complex. And an area school district is making boundary changes that will affect nearly 300 students. Hello and welcome to the Nightly Review. I'm Tom Tucker. We begin with a look at tonight's headlines, then a closer look with comments tonight from Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who visited Moorhead today. He's promoting his plan to distribute tax rebate checks to citizens ranging anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And in tonight's one-on-one conversation, we hear from Allie Ollenburger, who just announced her candidacy for the Fargo School Board. Last year, she was a leader among parents pushing to recall current board members. But first, in a developing story tonight, the South Dakota House of Representatives has voted to impeach Attorney General Jason Ravnsborg on two separate articles related to misdemeanor crimes and making misrepresentations to law enforcement and the public. It all has to do with Ravnsborg striking and killing a pedestrian while driving and then leaving the scene of the accident in September of 2020. No injuries reported after a high-risk knock-and-announce search warrant was carried out this morning at the Countryside Trailer Park in South Fargo. A police representative says both Red River Valley SWAT and Fargo police worked together to place 25-year-old Delonte Prescott in custody. Prescott had several active warrants out for his arrest, including possession of drugs with intent to sell in Cass County and theft of a motor vehicle. 5 months after flames broke out in an apartment garage complex in Dilworth, an arrest warrant is out for the woman who police say started the fire. 32-year-old Brianna Page is charged with both second and third degree arson, as well as a felony count of negligent fires. If convicted, Page could spend up to 10 years in prison. No word yet on a possible motive. The Moorhead School Board is moving forward with the new attendance area boundary plan. District officials say the boundaries were adjusted to address capacity issues at elementary schools in the south and east sides of the city. We're told the changes were based in part on a parent survey along with input from the district. About 270 students will be impacted by the changes. A Moorhead Police Patrol Sergeant is seeking the GOP endorsement for Minnesota District 4 State Senate seat. Joe Brannon says he hopes to bring more of a first-hand perspective to public safety. The announcement by Brannon comes amid changes to district boundaries made by the state legislature. The Otter Tail County Sheriff's Office has announced it has located the Pelican Rapids man who fled the scene after a shooting earlier this week. Deputies say after a brief chase in Redwood County, Fautese Parente was caught and taken into custody. The initial shooting in Pelican Rapids happened Sunday afternoon. No details yet on the condition of the victim. Fargo School Board President Rebecca Knutson is talking about her decision to seek a third term on the board.
I have been so fortunate to be elected by the voters twice before, 2014 and 2018, and I'm looking forward to another 4 years of service for the Fargo School District.
Knutson says she wants to prioritize the education of students in what she calls a safe learning environment. The University of North Dakota and North Dakota State are receiving medical research grants from the Federal Department of Health and Human Services. Senator Kevin Cramer announced UND will receive nearly $383,000 for research in the areas of allergy, immunology, and transplantation. North Dakota State will receive $432,000 for cancer treatment research. Food and service industries across North Dakota continue to experience staffing shortages. Leaders of the Chamber and the Fargo-Moorhead area say restaurants and fast food places are back to operating at full capacity, yet struggling to get enough workers for their shifts. Many businesses are offering higher wages in an effort to attract new employees. A Democrat is entering the race for North Dakota Secretary of State. Jeffrey Powell filed as a candidate from the state's Democratic NPL party. Powell is the student life director at Mayville State University. He says the campaign will focus on competence, economic growth, and protecting voters' constitutional rights. Powell filed after the party failed to find a candidate to endorse at its convention last month. In a closer look tonight, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz visited Moorhead today to promote his plan to distribute tax rebate checks to citizens. Right now, he's calling the proposed payments Walz Checks. If the plan is approved by the state legislature, all residents 18 and over, regardless of income status, would receive $500 payments, and married couples would receive $1,000. Walz first stopped at MSUM.
Being here on campus, understanding that whether it's gas prices or whether it's supply chain issues, prices have gone up for many people, and the ability of Minnesota's finances to be in a place to return money to the pockets of Minnesotans, both in the short term and over the long term, while continuing to invest in education, lowering the cost for the students that are here, making sure that childcare and childcare providers are a focus of what we're doing. A lot of opportunities for win-win-wins.
The Walz checks, if approved, would deliver $2 billion in direct aid to Minnesota families. The money would come from the state's massive budget surplus, which now totals more than $9 billion. Also, while in Moorhead, Walz met with law enforcement officials and fire officials to talk about how they might spend their share of $300 million the governor wants to allocate to cities under his public safety plan.
The good news on this issue of public safety is there's great ideas coming out of all the caucuses across the political spectrum on how to deal with this. And the biggest thing that we're seeing is that this focus on local communities. In our budget, we proposed $300 million. It comes to about $763,000 for the city of Moorhead per year over the next 3 years, this biennium and a half, about $80,000 to Dilworth, and then about $180,000 to the county.
While speaking with the governor today, Moorhead Police Chief Shannon Monroe told Walz that officer recruitment and retention continues to be a major issue. Shannon says he expects significant turnover in the department over the next 5 years. The governor suggested higher pay for officers could help attract new recruits to departments around the state. Well, time now to hear from meteorologist Justin Storm in the Skywatch Weather Center. He is busy tracking that snowstorm hitting the western part of the state.
Thanks, Tom. We're dealing with a major winter storm affecting the state right now, and that's bringing widespread blizzard conditions from the northern and central valley out into Montana. The entire state dealing with heavy to moderate snow with blizzard conditions throughout this evening into tonight. However, we are the exception here in the southern valley and stretching into lakes country. We're stuck with some scattered showers. Might see a little wet snow mix in there from time to time tonight, and we're going to see the winds lightening up as well, around 10 to 20, occasionally gusting up to 30, and that's what the winds will stick around on Wednesday as the low tracks overhead. Dry air will flood into eastern North Dakota and portions of Minnesota to our east, and that will give us a break in the snow, but it will still be snowing out west with blizzard conditions. We'll see the wind ramping up as we head into Wednesday night with wraparound snow flooding back into the Red River Valley, and we'll see scattered snow showers with strong wind continuing into your Thursday.
It could happen to you or someone you love. One moment, one diagnosis can change everything. Thankfully, there's a program that helps caring people uplift families through a crisis. Lend a Hand Up, raising financial help and hope through community benefits and online campaigns. A program that boosts generosity so gifts go further. Lend a Hand Up helps you help your neighbors. Learn more and give at lendahandup.org.
Welcome back to the Nightly Review. In tonight's one-on-one conversation, my guest is Allie Ollenburger, a Fargo native, a mother of two, and a tech executive with Microsoft, who has just announced her candidacy for Fargo School Board. She's running for one of 5 seats that are coming open in June. Ollenberger is one of the group leaders who last year launched an unsuccessful recall effort targeting current board members. I first asked Ollenberger why she decided to run.
First of all, I'm really excited to throw my name into this race. Never ever thought that I would ever have my name out there on running for any office, but I am honored to be doing so. What drove me to this decision is really watching how things have just really truly gone down over the last couple of years here within the Fargo School Board, and wanting just to be a part of that change. So happy to be stepping up to bring my leadership skills to the table, bring my my background with managing multiple stakeholders, working on collaborations, and really truly making the decisions for the betterment of Fargo. I have 2 kids in the Fargo public school system. One is a 2nd grader and one will be in kindergarten come this fall. So it's also a vested personal interest as well. I want to make sure that my children have the same educational opportunities and the same solid education that I was so lucky to be brought up in. I'm graduate of Fargo Public Schools, proud Fargo North Spartan, graduated in 2003, and still currently living in North Fargo. So.
Now, you mentioned watching things closely in the district over the past couple of years. What is it in the district right now, would you say, that has your attention, and what are you concerned about and why?
One of the key things that is, that kind of always comes up is school boundaries, right? So those are highly, they get tension and everything like that, right? Nobody ever wants to change their schools. And one of the things that really, when I think about what I would do and what I would accomplish if I'm on the school board, is really being that key community partner, being involved and engaged in these neighborhoods, not just me personally, but having engagement, bringing those key stakeholders to the table to help make these decisions, understanding what the long-term, the long-range plan is for Fargo. Wherever we have developments going up, do we have a plan in place to then support those neighborhoods with local schools? The district has that as their North Star when it comes to how they look about school boundaries. Really, the way that they've done things lately, I call it the color crayon method. They just take a map and they color it in a color crayon, and there you go. That's where the boundaries are, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It drives things up like cost of busing, or going, like I said, just really truly going against natural boundaries that exist within our city. Major thoroughroads, Main Avenue 13th, those are major thoroughroads. Like, why do we have boundaries that span those? It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you think about how our community functions and how our community works together. And so having that plan, that vision, that strategy moving forward, I think really makes a big difference. And I was explaining this to Paul and Janae earlier today when I was on the coffee club with them. And, take Main Avenue, for example. When you put that as the boundary, you say, okay, to 5th Avenue and to 5th Avenue, right? On either side of Main Avenue, that's your buffer zone. So if things do need to be adjusted, you've already clearly called out what your buffer zone is. And if people are truly motivated about purchasing their homes and settling in a neighborhood, they know what's the potential buffer zone and what's the guaranteed to stay within that local school and local community.
You were involved last year in the recall effort targeting current board members. Who did you want removed from the board and why?
With the recall, I was the person that was willing to run for school board. So in a recall, ultimately all the recall does is it puts the decision back on the voting public. So in the recent election, it was June of 2020. There was a lot of decisions being made. There was also a lot of things going on in June of 2020, if we all remember back then. Some would like to not go back to 2020, but there was a lot going on. And really, did we pay attention to who we were electing at that point in time is really one of the major driving factors. I became heavily involved in the recall because I said I'd be willing to take a stand, and I would be willing to, if I was unhappy with the way that things were going, I would be willing to run for the seat and be a challenger to any of the people that would be put as a recall election. The actual recall itself was put together by five other parents that would be the sponsor committee, and then in collaboration we worked to collect almost 5,000 signatures per individual that we had up for the recall. And ultimately we targeted Jim Johnson as the primary. Jim has been on the school board for 20 years, has a long list of things that are just not in the best interest of our kids. I mean, he's been on the school board for 20 years. He was the president of the school board and then was removed as the president of the school board for bullying. I personally don't want somebody like that making decisions or leading the decision making for my children. I mean, if you're getting removed from a leadership position for being a bully, what does that say about you? What does that say about the tactics that you're bringing to the table?
I'd like to thank Fargo School Board candidate Allie Ollenburger for joining me for tonight's one-on-one conversation. With regard to COVID policies for the school district, Ollenberger says she would not support mandates of any kind. She previously served for 8 years as an Army medic in the National Guard. Well, that will do it for this Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. I'm Tom Tucker. Thanks for watching the Nightly Review.